A Word with Mr. Douglas, London, 1846. We turned from the doorstep and walked down the slippery steps toward the street. At that moment, the rain picked up and began flowing off the professor's umbrella like it was being poured from a bucket. "What do we do now, Professor?" Tamika asked. Professor Tuesday sighed deeply. "I suppose we can walk around and look at London as it was in 1846. Maybe Mr. Douglas will come home. But we must find him soon or we won't be able to talk with him." The professor looked at his watch. "The teleporter will stay open for another hour or so." A horse-drawn carriage passed us on the street. I turned to see it come to a stop in front of the house we had just left. "Professor, look!" A distinguished man stepped out of the carriage. His skin was dark. The collar of his coat was up, protecting him from the weather. A thick crop of black hair flowed out of his black stovepipe hat and stood above the folds in his coat. I pointed back toward the man. "Could that be Mr. Douglas?" I asked. "Let's find out," said the professor. We rushed toward him. "Mr. Douglas!" the professor shouted above the rain. "Excuse me, sir. Are you Mr. Douglas?" The man tipped his hat to the professor, and our Tuesday translators crackled to life. "Yes, sir, I am. How may I help you?" The professor reached out and shook the man's hand. "Mr. Douglas, I've waited a long time to meet you. My friends and I have come all the way from America to talk with you." Mr. Douglas looked us over carefully. He must have realized that we wouldn't cause him any harm. A big smile crossed his face. "Come in out of this miserable weather and join me for tea." The professor shook the rain off his umbrella and we entered the house. We hung our coats on wooden pegs that poked out of the walls in the entryway. Mr. Douglas called out and the woman we had talked to earlier appeared. He introduced her as his housekeeper, Miss Kensington. She curtsied politely. Mr. Douglas then asked for some tea for himself and the professor, for himself and the professor, and milk for Tamika and me. The woman curtsied once again and left. We followed Mr. Douglas through a large doorway. He led us to a beautiful room. Long drapes flowed from the tops of the windows to the floor. A colorful ring was placed at the center of the room. A fire in the fireplace at one end offered warmth and comfort. At one side of the room, a flowery old-looking couch squatted against the wall. A low table stood in front of the couch and wooden chairs set at the end. Mr. Douglas gestured and spoke. "Please have a seat," he said. "Our tea and refreshments will arrive soon." The professor joined Mr. Douglas on the couch as Tamika and I sat in the chairs. The wooden seats creaked slightly as we sat down. "Thank you for taking the time to see us. My name is Professor Tuesday," the professor began. "These are my friends, Jessie and Tamika, and we've come here to learn about you and your life." Mr. Douglas turned to Tamika and stared at her directly. His eyes were strong and he seemed to look right through her. "Let me see your hands, child." Tamika turned to me with a shocked look on her face. Then she slowly raised her hands to Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas gently took her hands. He held them close to his eyes and looked over them carefully. His rough, work-hardened hands traced her palms and fingers. Then he took a long look at Tamika's face. "Your hands aren't cut and calloused," he said, "and your eyes don't show the sorrow or sadness of slavery." Tamika shook her head and spoke very softly. "I've never been a slave, but some of my relatives were." "So would you like to learn about life as a slave?" Mr. Douglas asked. "I'd be happy to tell you about my experiences." Just then a tray of beverages and cookies were brought into the room by Miss Kensington. She placed the tray on her table in front of us. It had a teapot and 2 glasses of milk. Small cookies were piled high at the center. Mr. Douglas poured tea for himself and Professor Tuesday. Tamika and I picked up our milk. We were surprised to find that it was warm. I turned to Mr. Douglas and tried to talk the way he would. "Where were you born, sir?" Mr. Douglas smiled. "I was born in Talbot County, Maryland, although I don't have any idea of the actual day or year of my birth." "You don't know when you were born?" Tamika asked. "Most slaves have no idea of their age. The fact that I don't even know the day I was born makes me very sad," Mr. Douglas said. "My mother was named Harriet Bailey. When I was born, it was common among slaves in Maryland and other states for slaveholders to separate babies from their mothers. My grandmother took care of me from the time I was a young child." "That would be terrible," Tamika said. "Did you ever see your mother?" Mr. Douglas had a pained look on his face as he answered. "I saw her no more than 4 or 5 times, and all those meetings took place at night. After I was born, she sold me off to Mr. Stewart, a man who lived some 12 miles away. She was a field hand. After her work was done for the day, she made those journeys on foot to see me. She would stay with me in the night and leave early in the morning. If she did not return to Mr. Stewart's fields by sunrise, she would receive a terrible whipping. "Tell us about what your life was like," Tamika said softly. "Well," Mr. Douglas began, "my name at birth was Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey." "Wait," I said, "I thought your name was Frederick Douglass." "That is my name today," Mr. Douglas said. "When I escaped slavery, I changed my name so it would be harder for the slave catchers to find me." "Was it terrible being a slave?" "Yes."
Do they know what you look like, though?
"They do, but where does he live now?"
London.
"And where did he escape from?" "The United States." So it wasn't really common for them to travel to different, if they got to a different country, they could be free. But if he stayed in the United States, they still could come and catch him.
You go to Canada?
Yep, you could go to Canada and they wouldn't be able to get you. Okay, here we go, almost done.
British.
"Was it terrible being a slave?" Tamika asked. "I would not wish the life of a slave on any man or woman. If slaves misbehave or do not work hard or fast enough, they are beaten with a cane and whip, many times until they bleed. It does not matter if the slave is a man, woman, or child. Sometimes they fall unconscious from the beating. Slaves even die at the hands of the overseers. If a slave is thought to be unmanageable, it is not uncommon for him or her to be shipped off and sold to owners who might even be more cruel." Mr. Douglas paused for a moment and turned to Tamika. "Our people are treated worse than common cattle.